unicorn! Here we are. We made the little over 2-hour drive to North Jersey. We're switching gears in today's vlog, and we're fishing deep, clear reservoirs. On the menu today, on this wet fall day, smallmouth, largemouth, and maybe a bonus lake trout. Come on, let's fish.
To be you. This is Mike and I.
I think with these lakes that are, you know, we're clear, super clear, you could see 15 feet to the bottom, super deep. This lake's got 200 foot of water in it. You know, a lot of these fish become roamers. You know, they really roam with the food source, and that makes it tough. So, you know, you really got to use your electronics here. You got to locate bait. And you got to present it to them at their level. So it's going to be real key. We just got out here. We're marking some bait as deep as 40 already, but we're not seeing many game fish arcs. So keep moving until you see the bait. That's pretty important. It's funny, it's like the shallower I got, the less I saw bait. Might try to push back out just a little bit more, back out in about 50. See, there's one. Here's the first game fish we've seen. He's suspended. He was up at around 20 foot. He's still under the boat right now. There he goes, he's gone down. He's in 25, he's sinking down now. So that's the first game fish we saw. Now that could be a trout, could be a bass, but that's, you know, that's what we want to see today. We want to see marks like that. We want to see a lot of bait, and we want to see those kind of marks. I'm gonna switch to a tight line. This is it's a good bait when they get deep and they're vertical under the boat. The technique's called tight lining. The main thing is a jig head with a 90-degree line tie. This is a VMC jig head called a moon eye. And if you look at it, the jig head is real special because it's called an aspirin style jig head. Looks just like an aspirin. But the line tie's at a 90-degree angle. And when you're tight lining, that's what you want, because that will keep this bait horizontal in the water. So this is a 3/8 ounce VMC moon eye. And then the bait, you know, we're just trying to imitate what they're feeding on here. And this lake is loaded with alewife herring. Alewife herring, so small herring, 3 to 4 inch herring. If you look at a herring, it's got a lot of bluish black in them, little bit of silver. And you know what we're gonna do with this, we're not even gonna cast it. We're literally gonna drop this thing straight down. It spirals on the fall, which is really neat. But we're gonna drop this thing down, and we wanna just keep it at the level of the fish. That's real important. So once we start making some marks and we can figure out how deep they are, we're gonna drop this thing to the level of the fish, and then here's what we're gonna do. Look at this. This is why it's called tight lining. Very little movement with the rod. You're literally keeping the bait just horizontal, almost dead sticking it. They also call this style of fishing, they call it moping, but a lot of people know it as tight lining, and real effective way to catch them when they're suspended. So we need to find a few more fish here. We'll start dropping down to a few. There he goes. There he comes. See if he gets it.
Got him! Big one! Big one!
Ah! Ah! Saw that one on the graph. So drop a tight line on him. I mean, instantly. This is exactly why tight lining is so effective for deep suspended fish. People think, why do it? It's got very little action! It's got very little action, but for a suspended fish, this is the exact way you want to catch them. You don't need a lot of action. Those herring don't have a lot of action when they're dying. And this is a great imitation of those dying herring. It could be shad in other places. This is exactly why tight lining plus a good graph, the right line, the right jig head, this is all such an important system, the whole system. This is a giant. I can't even. Got his Look at all the marks I'm marking. I'm gonna put a little waypoint here, hit my spot lock. Look at that thing. That's the reason tight lining is so effective. I'm gonna keep telling you about it, but look at that. It's gone. Look at this simple system. You don't need a lot of action in baits sometimes minimal action. It's the VMC 3/8 ounce Moon Eye, perfect jig head for tight lining, and that's the Berkley Maxscent Minnow in an owlwife or a shad color. Look at that. That is the magic combination right there. Tight lining, 4.5 pound smallmouth, all day long, baby. Tight lining, tight lining. And that's about as good as it gets. Look at that tank. Thank you, Mr. Smallmouth. Dude, he rose up for it and ate it instantly. Dude, it doesn't get any better than that. You talk about it, you do it, and it happens. You almost don't want to cast too far, you know? It's like when you're fishing like this, you can make small little pitches. Oh, there's one. I got one. Looking at it. Notice when I'm tight lining, I'm not moving it much, right? I'm trying to keep it at the level of the fish. The fish is in about 20. Try to make another cast on him. May have had that a little high on him. Let's see. Yeah, it may not be a bass. You know, there's other fish too. So not every one is going to be a smallmouth, but they're all worth checking, you know. Still there, but I don't think it's a small. Oh my God. Oh my God. Come on, boat. God. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's a big one too, dude. Oh God. Please, boat, move. Come on. Look at the bird. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him eating owlwife. Big ones, dude. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. I'm on him. These fish are in 70. Yeah. Wow. That was sick, man. There were some big ones blowing bait out in 78 feet of water. That's crazy. There's bait. Looks sort of like, this looks like some junk at the bottom. It's bait. It's real low. Mega School bait right here. Mega School. The screen's black. You know, it's a neat correlation to look at the differences in the last two vlogs. The last vlog we shot in the fall was on a shallow lake, and deepest water there is 10 feet. And we were using our eyes to find the bait, you know, visually scanning. When you see the bait jumping, you run over there and fish. Today's vlog, totally different. Crystal clear water, you can see down 20 foot. This lake's got 200 foot of water in it. And because of that, we're using our underwater eyes more. We're using our graph. And you know, whatever brand you use, it's so important to learn the graph and learn what a mark looks like. And combination of seeing bait and fish on the graph and dropping down with that tight line, dropping right on the mark with that tight line. That's a magic combination in the fall. Oh, here you go, here you go. Let's see what happens, here you go. Got a small mark and a medium mark. Side by side, let's see what happens. See it, really want to show you guys what I'm doing too with this tight lining. It's really the kind of bait where you don't have to impart a lot of action. So what I'm doing, if you look on the graph, you can see my bait right near this little pile of bait right here. I'm essentially just keeping the bait right at the level of the fish. And once in a while, I'll give it just a little snap, right? Watch, they call it tight lining because you just keep your line tight. Line's tight, give it a little snap occasionally, give it a little snap, but look at the rod tip. I'm hardly moving it. I'm hardly moving it at all. Once in a while, I'll let it fall a little, maybe let it fall just below the level of the fish, but you're really letting the bait stay horizontal. That's key in this technique. In tight lining, just let that bait stay horizontal. And those fish in that clear water see it. It looks like an easy meal. You know, it's just like the spy bait technique. Sometimes lack of action, the less action, is what actually triggers the bite. You know, so you don't always need a lot of movement to the bait. Sometimes you can have very little movement, and it really does a good job of imitating bait fish that's injured, disoriented, right? They don't move around a lot. They just kind of sit there. So that tight lining does that perfect. All right. So what do you think? Head over? Yeah, I'm gonna head over. Let's hit the tower, hit the grass point, and then work our way back to the ramp. What do you think? Another big one. Big one. That's a lake trout, I think. That's a funny looking smallmouth. That's a funny looking smallmouth. Look at them head shakes. I got it. I got him. 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 I got me a trouser trout. See that? Tight lining. Tight liner even works for trout. That tells you how good that technique is. Look at that. Look at that. Same bait we catch a big smallmouth with. Look at that. Works for trout. Look at that beautiful thing. He's slimy. I mean, there's a ton down there, like a lot. Got him. You know, this tight lining is a really key technique, but the equipment is just as important. I want to talk to you a little bit about the rod, the reel, and the line that I'm using. You know, on rod, I actually want a rod that's just a little bit stiffer. It's not the same rod you're going to throw a drop shot or Nico. It's a little stiffer. And the rod that I love for tight lining, and especially for this technique, is a 7.2 medium action Abu Garcia Ike Series Finesse spinning rod. It's got the perfect amount of tip. You want a little stiffness, because remember, in tight lining, that aspirin head, that jig head's got a straight hook. You want to get a little bit into them. The reel, a 20 or a 30 size Abu Garcia Ike Revo. This is the Ike 20, perfect reel. But here's the scenario that I really want you to pay attention to. Because of the depth of water we're fishing, it's a braid to fluorocarbon leader. And I'm using, this is Berkley X5 in 10 pound. This is a 10-pound braid. And I'm using a 6 or an 8-pound Berkley 100% Trilene fluorocarbon leader. And I got about 3 foot of leader on there. So the braid is so important, and this X5 is so nice that when you're in 40, 50, 60 foot of water and that fish eats the tight line, set the hook and there's no stretch. So rod, reel, line, super important in the tight lining technique. Here he goes. Big one. Stay on there. Oh, big smallmouth. Here he comes. Here he comes. Go! Tight lining. I saw him on the graph and I threw back at him. This tight lining is such an effective technique, and if you were watching, not moving my rod, literally keeping the bait horizontal, and that's where this VMC Moon Eye is the perfect jig head for it. You need a jig head with a 90-degree line tie, and the aspirin shape is key. The other thing that's great about this particular bait, you could tight line any minnow bait, but this is Maxscent, and the great thing about the Maxscent is it emits scent, you know, especially for smallmouths. Smallmouths love, oh God, here he comes. Smallmouths love scent. Got him. Look at that. Another nice tight line smallmouth. Once again, look at that. Now, if you've heard of this technique and you haven't tried it, and you live on lakes where the fish get deep and they suspend, this is another fish. He came out of 42 feet of water. 3/4 of the way down. So fish probably came out of 35 to 38 feet of water. Look at that. I mean, gobbled it. And once again, how key that bait is. The VMC 3/8-ounce Moon Eye with that Maxscent. That's the Flatnose Minnow. The Flatnose Minnow. It's a perfect complement. The other thing that's interesting about the Flatnose Minnow, most minnow baits put that tail horizontally, right? On the Flatnose Minnow, it's vertical, just like a real bait fish tail, right? That's so important. So this thing dropping down in clear water, dude, they cannot resist it, man. This is such a critical technique when fish are deep, when fish are suspended. It's tight lining. Thank you. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed today's Tackle Warehouse vlog. I want you to tag, like, and share this post for a chance to be entered into a contest to win tons of tackle. And let me remind you, all the amazing products and baits you've seen right here, they're available on Tackle Warehouse. We're gonna hit the road and we're gonna go to lake number 2 called Spruce Run. Come on, let's go.